How did the Ten Commandments 1956 deceive you? They erased the most crucial scenes to hide the terrifying truth about this film. Did you know that what you see on screen is only a small fraction of the real story? Behind the glamorous facade of a classic epic lies a series of buried secrets, deleted scenes, and controversial changes that shaped the film into the masterpiece we know today. Released in 1956, The Ten Commandments was not only a grand historical epic, but also a cultural symbol that defined the genre of religious and historical films. Featuring Moses as the main character played by Charlton Heston, the film created an eternal monument to faith and liberation. But behind that dazzling glow is another truth: the film had to sacrifice, edit, and erase many important segments to conceal details that could undermine its perfect image. In fact, many deleted scenes were never released, including segments that might have made audiences shudder at the harsh realities the film deliberately chose to hide. Why were these scenes removed? What compelled director Cecil B. DeMille to make such bold and controversial decisions? Is what you saw on the big screen truly the whole story? Get ready to uncover the darkest secrets behind this legendary classic. The horrifying filming process that terrified the cast. The filming of The Ten Commandments 1956 was nothing like the glamorous experience shown on screen. Instead, it was a series of harrowing, tense, and mysterious events. One of the most chilling stories recounted was the appearance of a mysterious white figure in the Egyptian desert. Several crew members swore they saw a figure dressed in a white robe standing motionless on the golden sands under the blazing sun. But when they tried to approach, the figure disappeared right before their eyes, leaving behind confusion and numerous speculations. Some believed it was a guardian, sent from the spiritual realm to witness the retelling of the divine story on screen, while others were convinced it was merely a mirage caused by the extreme heat. Regardless, the incident was enough to make many on the set feel as though a supernatural force was watching over them. The eerie elements weren't limited to real-life occurrences, but also crept into the film's frames. The scene of the green mist carrying the angel of death slowly creeping through Egyptian homes, claiming the lives of firstborn sons, made audiences shudder every time they watched it. What made this scene even more unsettling was the secret that director Cecil B. DeMille had hidden. He had embedded the image of a real human skull into the mist. While viewers couldn't clearly see it with the naked eye, their subconscious sensed. Something was amiss, an invisible yet haunting fear. It wasn't just a scene, it was a psychological experience that struck directly at the primal instincts of the audience. Beyond the supernatural elements, the crew also faced real dangers on set. In one iconic scene where Moses' staff transforms into a serpent, DeMille decided to use a live cobra for authenticity. Initially, the snake was carefully controlled by a team of trainers, but the heat of the desert and the bright set lights agitated it. The cobra unexpectedly broke free, slithering among electrical wires, and set equipment plunging the entire set into chaos. Hundreds of extras screamed, threw down their props, and ran in panic while the technical staff scrambled to capture the snake. Some people tripped. Others got stuck in their heavy costumes, and it took over an hour to restore order. After this incident, the crew switched to using a fake snake for safety. But the memory of the cobra haunted many long after. As if the dangers weren't enough, casting decisions also came with their own set of tensions. Audrey Hepburn, a symbol of elegance and sophistication, was initially considered for the role of Nefertari, the lover of Pharaoh Ramses. However, DeMille rejected her outright due to her physical appearance. Hepburn's slender frame was deemed too slight. The royal costumes laden with pearls and gold were thought to swallow her on screen, diminishing the aura of power the role demanded. Ultimately, the part was given to Anne Baxter, whose fuller figure better suited DeMille's vision. This decision sparked controversy, with many accusing the director of being overly strict with his standards of physical appearance. Nevertheless, Anne Baxter delivered a stellar performance, transforming Nefertari into a symbol of power and beauty on screen. On top of these challenges, the working conditions in the desert posed no small difficulty. Daytime temperatures soared to 50 degrees Celsius, and thousands of extras had to wear thick costumes adorned with gold and jewels, while the stage lights only intensified the stifling heat. Many people fainted from exhaustion, forcing the crew to take frequent breaks to provide water and care for everyone. Some extras even joked, "We're not slaves in the movie, we're DeMille's real-life slaves." Controversial changes that made audiences want to abandon the film. The production of The Ten Commandments 1956 was a journey full of surprises and bold changes that created a timeless masterpiece. One of the most memorable events was when director Cecil B. DeMille nearly lost his life on set. At the age of 73, he climbed a 40-metre-high iron ladder to oversee a wide shot but suddenly suffered a heart attack. Luckily, he survived and returned to work just 2 days later with the statement, "I'd rather die on the set than at home resting." This determination partly explains the perfection of every frame, though it left the crew both admiring and concerned. However, not all plans went smoothly. One of the most famous cutscenes was the Plague of Frogs, in which hundreds of live frogs were released into Pharaoh's palace. Instead of feeling fear, test audiences burst into laughter at the chaotic antics of the frogs. This failure led DeMille to completely remove the scene, burying it as a secret forever. Beyond changes to the content, the film also impressed with bold technical decisions. The parting of the Red Sea, one of the greatest moments in cinematic history, was achieved using 2 enormous water tanks gelatin to create a thickened texture and reverse filming of water pouring down. The result was an effect so realistic that it left millions of viewers in awe. Similarly, the hailstorm that struck Egypt was actually popcorn painted white, which was both safe for the actors and easy to reuse after each take. This practical creativity brought vivid, convincing imagery without the need for modern CGI. Additionally, the character designs were meticulously crafted to provide historical depth and powerful symbolism. Charlton Heston, playing Moses, wore a robe featuring red, white, and black colours. Seemingly a random choice, but one that perfectly matched the ceremonial colours of the Levite priests in the Bible. This detail led many to believe that the film was guided by some divine hand, further enhancing its symbolic significance. Meanwhile, Yul Brynner, portraying Pharaoh Ramses, faced concerns about his modest height. To avoid being overshadowed by the tall and muscular Charlton Heston, Brynner underwent intense physical training, transforming himself into a regal, commanding pharaoh on screen. Not all actors were so fortunate, however. Audrey Hepburn, a rising star at the time, was rejected for the role of Nefertari because of her slender figure, which was deemed unable to carry the royal costumes weighing dozens of kilograms. The role was instead given to Anne Baxter, who brought a sharp and powerful presence, turning Nefertari into a symbol of beauty and ambition. Deleted scenes, the mystery of the Plague of Frogs, and controversial decisions. Not all the elaborate scenes in The Ten Commandments 1956 made it to the big screen. Among the most famous deleted scenes was the Plague of Frogs, one of the 10 plagues God sent upon Egypt to challenge Pharaoh.
Make pure the flood from which you came.
This scene was meticulously crafted with hundreds of live frogs released into Pharaoh's palace to recreate the chaos described in the Bible. However, during test screenings, instead of evoking fear and horror, as intended, audiences burst into laughter at the sight of the frogs hopping around chaotically. This unexpected reaction was unacceptable to Cecil B. DeMille, known for his perfectionism. He feared that the unintended humour would undermine the film's solemn and reverent tone. As a result, he decided to entirely cut the scene from the final version, despite the significant effort and time invested in its production. However, the Plague of Frogs scene did not completely disappear. In the 1966 re-release, parts of the scene were reconstructed using still images from the set Elmer Bernstein's musical score and a few brief segments from the original footage to place it in its intended context. Yet in later DVD releases, the scene was completely omitted, turning it into a forgotten mystery for modern audiences. The decision to cut the scene was not only due to the test audience's reaction, but also because DeMille wanted to preserve the film's seriousness, ensuring it maintained its epic stature and religious spirit. Beyond the Plague of Frogs, another impactful scene was the sequence where Moses was saved from Pharaoh Ramesses II's brutal decree. To escape the order to kill all firstborn Hebrew boys, Moses, then an infant, was placed in a reed basket by his mother and set adrift on the Nile River. The image of the basket floating through dangerous waters surrounded by crocodiles and treacherous currents was not only deeply emotional, but also filled with intense suspense. Ultimately, Moses was saved by Pharaoh's daughter Bithiah, who adopted him as her own. From there, he grew up in Pharaoh Seti's court, earning the king's favour and the love of Nefertari, the crown princess. However, the hatred of Ramesses, Pharaoh Seti's son, set the stage for a deep rivalry between them. When Moses discovered his Hebrew heritage, he was exiled from Egypt and began a journey across the harsh desert, where he found love, started a family, and received a divine mission from God to return to Egypt and free the Hebrews from slavery. This scene, reintroduced in the 1966 re-release, was not only a pivotal part of the narrative, but also emphasized the contrast between Moses and Ramesses. Surprisingly, Moses' greatest enemy was not Pharaoh himself, but someone close to him, described in the Bible as having a hardened heart. These internal conflicts and confrontations highlighted the profound themes of willpower, faith, and salvation. Nevertheless, not all these scenes were preserved in subsequent versions. In some DVD releases, many scenes were shortened or entirely removed, especially iconic ones that didn't align with the modern pacing of the film. These decisions, while controversial, demonstrated the production team's flexibility and careful consideration in preserving the film's core spirit. The removal of scenes like the Plague of Frogs or the editing of certain segments reflects DeMille's artistic perfectionism. He not only created an epic film, but also ensured that the Ten Commandments conveyed its profound message and maintained its gravitas. Even though these deleted scenes never made it to the big screen, they remain an essential part of the behind-the-scenes story and have contributed to the legend the film has become. Unique and symbolic elements in the film. The film contains numerous unique and symbolic elements of historical, religious, and cultural significance, helping it become one of the most influential cinematic works in history. These elements not only contributed to the film's success, but also left a strong impact on many fields beyond cinema. One of the boldest and most unique marketing campaigns in film history was Cecil B. DeMille's initiative to erect more than 4,000 stone tablets engraved with the Ten Commandments across the United States. These tablets were placed in squares, parks, and even in front of courthouses and government offices, not only to promote the film, but also as a reminder of ethics and religious values. This was not only a clever marketing move, but also DeMille's way of affirming that the Ten Commandments was a work of cultural and religious significance, transcending the boundaries of a regular film. However, this campaign sparked significant controversy over the decades, as organizations advocating religious freedom argued that placing these tablets in public spaces violated the principle of separation between church and state. The controversy peaked in 2005 when one of the tablets in Texas was brought before the US Supreme Court. Ultimately, the court ruled that the tablet could remain because it held cultural and historical value, not merely religious symbolism. This event turned DeMille's marketing campaign into a part of American legal history, showcasing the film's far-reaching influence not just in art, but also in societal and political issues. One of the most haunting scenes in the film is the Angel of Death, a green mist slowly spreading across Egypt, claiming the lives of the firstborn sons of Egyptian families, except for those who followed God's command and marked their doors with lamb's blood. This scene was not only visually stunning, but also effectively conveyed the terror and wrath of God. Its impact was so powerful that it inspired Metallica bassist Cliff Burton to compose the song Creeping Death. The song's lyrics vividly recount the plagues of Egypt with the intensity and ferocity of thrash metal. On stage, fans chant the chorus "Die Die" as if witnessing divine punishment. The fact that a religious epic inspired a classic metal song is a testament to the enduring and diverse influence of the Ten Commandments. The costumes in the Ten Commandments were not only grand, but also rich in historical and religious value. Moses' robe worn by Charlton Heston is a prime example. Initially, the design team chose red, black and white simply because they stood out under Technicolor filming. However, after the film's release, archaeologists and religious scholars discovered that these colours matched the ceremonial robes of the Levite priests, the tribe to which Moses belonged in the Bible. This coincidence led many to believe that the film was guided by a divine hand, further enhancing its symbolic significance. Meanwhile, Pharaoh Ramses, portrayed by Yul Brynner, left a strong impression with his gold-adorned costumes, heavy jewellery and piercing gaze. To embody a powerful Pharaoh, Brynner, standing at a modest height of 1.73 metres, underwent rigorous physical training to transform himself into a commanding and regal figure. His sculpted physique, combined with the intricate costume design, made Ramses one of the most memorable villains in cinematic history. One of the film's most unique elements was the voice of God in the burning bush scene. Many viewers assumed the voice belonged to a famous actor, but in reality, it was Charlton Heston's own voice. The technical team altered his voice, making it deeper and more resonant, adding a sense of majesty and divinity. This not only strengthened the connection between Moses and God, but also allowed audiences to feel the overwhelming power of the divine. Additionally, a touching detail was the appearance of Charlton Heston's real-life son, Fraser Clark. Heston as infant Moses in the Nile basket scene, the image of the fragile infant in the basket floating on dangerous waters and ultimately saved by an Egyptian princess, was not only symbolic, but also added emotional depth to the film. Fraser's appearance made the father-son connection on screen even more authentic and created a deeply human moment in the epic narrative. Thank you for watching. If you found this interesting, don't forget to like, share and subscribe so you won't miss our next exciting videos. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. What do you think about the secrets behind the Ten Commandments? See you in the next video.